Huh? Closet lights fixed. 2, 3, 4. Beep deep boop ba beep ba dee. Doo 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 doo. It's Wednesday. Hi. My name's Jimmy. I went to the comic book store today. Picks of the week. Da 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 da. I want to talk as much as I want to. You know what I mean? But my phone is such that it only has 2 gigabytes of data. I don't know why I went for such a low amount of data. Anyway. First up, from last week, I read Namor, King in Black, #1. This was very fun. Do I remember anything that happened? Not really. Actually, no, yeah, I do. Doesn't really tie into King in Black, which is, so far, great, because I'm not really reading King in Black. Although I did buy the Immortal Hulk tie-in from this week. Ewing wrote it. What do you want from me? So the story is about this group of... what they are exactly. It's kind of like the Lemurians, I think, or like there was kind of Jason Aaron added. Anyway, it's like from what I remember, many years ago, before Prince Namor. Most of this is a flashback before Namor was king of Atlantis, and he was just a young boy with young wings on his feet. And him and Atuma, who ends up being, one of his greatest nemeses, have to fight off this invading force, which, if I remember right, is like one of these... I've seen it in other stories before. They're like an ancient race that were banished many thousands of years ago, and now the chickens are coming home to roost, or the aquatic equivalent thereof. But it's fun, and like I say, the monsters in this one, I think, are all... The reason they're attacking is because Null is on his way to help destroy the planet, so... I mean, I'm looking forward to the rest of it. Because, yeah, Young Namor is pretty fun, too. Also, last week, I read the Comic Book History of Animation. This was just as good as I had hoped it would be, if not even better. I know a lot about animation. I am as interested, when I was a teenager, I was much more interested. Actually, who doesn't like cartoons? But when Roger Rabbit came out, that was when I, as a boy, was like, oh, there's a whole... art to this? Okay, tell me more. And so I got really into animation in general, and I would go to the Spike and Mike Festival of Animation every year in San Diego, California, where I grew up, and it was great. I've lost some of that, once, I think it was, I don't blame Family Guy, but it seemed to coincide around then, because when Family Guy came out, that was when most networks were like, oh, we can do an animated sitcom, and we don't have to pay actors as much? All right, yeah, let's do it. The hell is that? All right. Having said all that, there's a lot of stuff in here I didn't know. But they talked also about Iwerks, who I had forgotten about entirely. I mean, they start from just a blank page. And it used to be like these chalk talk things, or like how Cosby used to do those picture pages before he went to prison for being a rapist. And, God, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I don't know why they brought up Bill Cosby for no reason. It's kind of a bummer. But yeah, and a lot of Walt Disney. It ends with Walt Disney about to become, Walt Disney. And so that'll be a good issue for the second issue. I have a feeling moving forward from here, I'll probably... But I mean, the point of the book is not that I'm not supposed to be trying to outsmart the book. I'm battling out. I'll tell you, I've had a day to day. I got up very early for some reason. No, actually, I just always get up early. So I got up at like 6. Alright. It was a good book. I highly recommend The Comic Book History of Animation #1 by Fred Van Lent and Ryan Dunleavy. And finally, last week I read Super Toastman #1 by my buddy Joe Nunnick. The very funny and talented Joe Nunnick. Solo effort. Superhero book that he created when he was just a wee slip of a lad. Not that he's not my age, I can tell you. Yeah, it was fun. And it wasn't, I don't know if kid-friendly is the word. It's certainly, it's kid-friendly. Kid casual acquaintance, I don't know. There's not a lot of swearing. There's no sex that I recall. It feels a little like there might be at times. But it's really good. I hope, I ought to just connect him to my comic shop. Maybe he can send it straight to them. And this, I didn't show you this before. Black Widow #4. I honestly don't even remember what week this came out. if you think back to 4 months ago when I talked about issue number 1 and raved about the artist, and I couldn't remember her name. Her name is Elena Casagrande, which I do remember now. This woman, I got to show you this 2-page sequence that she drew. I mean, pause your YouTube and just look at that. Look at it! It's so good it makes me angry. This is very much an action sequence out of the playbook of your Paul Gulacy's or of your Jim Steranko's. And Elena Casagrande is well on her way to being on that fucking Mount Rushmore. I'm sorry for swearing. That's how good this book is. The story is actually, I mean, the story is not... Kelly Thompson is the writer, and so I'm not surprised that the story's good. But I don't buy everything she does. I might start. I mean, I'm definitely buying more of what she does by the day. But I'm going to be buying anything Elena Casagrande does. I even dorked out and sent her a direct message on Twitter telling her what a fan I am of her work. And she was very nice and thanked me, which is always... I always assume whenever I reach out to a woman on the internet that I don't know personally, she sees that there's a dude's name in the subject line and goes, well, steal yourself another penis. And then it's just my face. And they're like, well, I'm glad I steal myself anyway. That was Picks of the Week. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-doo. And now... Oh, man. I am having a day. What is it? Is it Picks of the Week? We did that. All right. Picks of last week. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-doo. I'm sorry for all the times I yelled at you. You're being really helpful today. I'll go wash my car. All right. Today, I didn't have... I should, again... I think I bought 21 books today, plus the hardcover I'm about to show you. I gotta get that down a little bit. But they're all books that I've already shown you and discussed and everything else. So, just a couple this week. First up, this was a very big surprise to me. This is Solid Blood number 17. Now, this is my bag. I was like, what in the hell? And that was, it didn't take me too long. So Warren said, oh, that's a crossover with crossover. And I went, ah, yes, of course. So, crossover, as I talked about the first issue about a month ago, I guess it was. And it is a book written by Donny Cates, and it is about superheroes have actually come into our world, and all of the ones, Marvel, DC, all the recognizable ones. And they get around it, like there's a sequence in issue 2, or a splash page where it's a shot of like this prison where the government is keeping the ones that they've caught. And so you can easily see Batman's silhouette and stuff like that. Why did I have to tell you that? I don't know. So, so it's a very much a superhero comic book about superheroes. It's very meta and everything else. So what they've done is they've crossed over with this title. Now, this is not a real title. Solid Blood number 17. There's never been any issues of Solid Blood, but it looks exactly like the sort of book that Image would have printed in 1992. That was, in fact, the only thing that really, I was like, wait, is this a real book then? Because they did do a thing where, they did a thing where, what was that book? There was a book that Rob Liefeld had started in the 90s called Prophet, and it wasn't very good. I think it might have been drawn by Dan Fraga, who was like a Liefeld knockoff, who's already a terrible artist. But Fraga, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of those early Image guys got way better. I'm not trying to shit on those guys. But that was all right. So Prophet came out in the 90s. He did like a handful of issues before he lost interest. And then Brandon Graham, 20-some years later, Brandon Graham was like a young guy. He's probably, he was probably in elementary school when like Prophet started. Excuse me. And he just started the series back up. And he wrote and drew it, and he took it in a much different direction. But the whole the premise of jumping off an old 90s Image book, I was like, oh, good. Maybe Brandon Graham is my age, because that feels like a Generation X thing to do. So, speaking of Generation X, Robert Kirkman has written this, and from what Warren told me, he doesn't, he knows I don't want spoilers, but Kirkman keeps up the kayfabe. This is being published straight-facedly. So he talks about it as though it's the 17th issue. There's like a fake house ad on the back for another Image title that doesn't exist. I love this sort of thing, if you haven't picked up on that. So, the only deal is, this can happen. The only problem is when they try to do something like this that is, like they're intentionally trying to do a shitty 90s comic. Sometimes they're too successful. So I don't think that'll be the case, but fingers crossed. And then also today, oh boy, Reckless by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. This is their newest hardcover. It's pretty sizable, especially compared to Pulp. Where's Pulp? Pulp was the other one they put out this year. Gosh, 2 hardcovers in a year. Where the hell is that book? I thought I just looked at it the other day. Nothing? Okay, I take it back. So, yeah, he had this prominently displayed right when he walked in, and I just gravitated towards it, and he went, no, you got one. This is a comic nerd thing. So, again, I don't know much about this, but, I mean, I've read everything else that Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips has done. I can make an educated guess as to what the subject matter will be. I will give you this pull quote from Patton Oswalt on the back cover, though, which I really like, and makes me very excited. Blah, 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 he's singing his praises, and all of it squirming and lunging through an overlit early 80s LA noir bleached to bleakness. Oh, Patton Oswalt, you sure do talk pretty. So I'm really into that, and when I read that line and I looked at the covering, and I went, oh yeah, totally. This totally looks like it takes place in 1983, which I am very much on board for, so that'll be fun. And those are picks of the week. Oh, you know what? I did them backwards. I was supposed to do picks of last week. Oh, are you not here today? Is that why I'm so... Oh, man, okay, sorry about that. That was picks of this week. And the other ones were... You get it. Okay, good. I didn't want to really blow through it, but the last 2 or 3 times I've done this, my phone is like, oh, sorry, all full up. I can't hear you talk about comic books anymore. And I'm like, well, how do you think I feel? I've been... I'll say that sometimes when a joke bombs, which, yeah, it happens a lot. Or I'll tell a joke and I'll get a groan. You groan sometimes. I tell some groaners. And my stock comeback has become, hey, I had to write it down and say it out loud. You're not going to get any sympathy out of me. And that's still kind of how I actually feel. Like, you know, if somebody were to be like, Jimmy, I can't listen to you talk about comic books anymore, I would say, I would like a break from it too every now and again, believe it or not. I don't really. All right, I guess that's it. Yeah, all right. I'm going to try and do fewer drugs this week, I think. 2, 3, 4. Do.